Alright, so we're still waiting for parts to come back from the machine shop for that Kubota project. And I thought, well, in the meantime, I thought I'd go back to work on the water supply for the absorber. And if you remember from a couple of videos ago, I showed that basically I was running the water off of the garden hose, but the garden hose is only good for me up to maybe at most like 280, or actually I think I calculated 310 horsepower, but in reality I think it's kind of limiting me down to maybe like 250, 280 maybe. So what I did is I did some searching around and I did some more thinking about it, and I guess what I decided to do was, rather than just get one water pump to supply the absorber back there directly and singularly, I decided what I want to try doing, and it should be okay, is to use kind of like a medium-sized water pump and use that as a addition to the garden hose flow. So I got a pump, and we can have a look at that here in a few minutes or a few seconds. So I got that, and I got some of this hose here, and you probably have seen it before, and you probably know where I got it from. And it's a 1-inch diameter. It's the suction hose, but it's 1-inch diameter. It looks like it's pretty decent construction, pretty rugged. I got that, but what I need to do is we'll need to connect that down here, and the other thing I need to find out is it's 20 feet long, but is that going to be enough to get out to the water tank that I have outside? And another thing I want to do is I want to temporarily hook the water pump up to the tank and do a flow test on it. What a pump's flow rate is advertised as can be quite a lot different than what it actually does in the situation that the pump is in. And then the other problem I've got is I needed a connector to connect this size hose to my water tank out there, and I just checked the status on it, and it's kind of frustrating, but it seems like every 10 orders I put in from a certain someplace, it ends up getting lost. So I might have to reorder that just to get that hooked up. But what I can do in the meantime, which isn't ideal, is I can hook a regular 3/4 inch garden hose up to it and measure it that way. But that's not the way I want to do it. But in the time that I've got for this week, that might be just the way I have to do it. So, and it ought to be reasonably close. We'll just make that hose short and maybe get a pretty decent idea of what that pump flows, at least for now. I'll probably test it again in the future. So I guess that's basically what we're doing this week. I guess what I'll show you next is some changes I've made so far. That fitting there comes in from the garden hose from the house, and this port here is just a drain, so that when I'm done running it, I can drain all the water out of this and dry it out a little bit. But what I just recently added was that valve there. That's where I'm going to hook up that 1-inch green hose, and that's going to go from there to the water tank. So I need to get that. I got a bushing for that to go from that to 1-inch NPT. Before we'll just I want to get the green hose in here and see if I have enough, so that when I go to the store to get the extra fitting I need for that, I can get both pieces at the same time if I need them. So basically that part there, these other things have been here all along, but that's new. And here's just a quick look at the pump that I got. It's got 1-inch NPT inlet and outlet, and it just runs on a 110 volt or a 120 volt source. It's got a switch here, turn it on and off, but I'm not going to be using that really. I'm going to probably hook up like a regular switch on the wall so I can turn it on and off from there. So what they said was the flow rate on this was about 1150 gallons per hour, and that comes out to a little bit more than 19 gallons per minute. I think the garden hose I measured at about 9 gallons per minute. So between this and the garden hose, well, I guess what I should say is that this is probably going to come up a little bit less than what it's advertised at. I'm just guessing that. We'll find out shortly. But sometimes when you put the pump into situation there, you know, and all the plumbing in and out and the curves and bends and everything, the performance tends to be a little bit less than what it's advertised at. let's get the some fittings on here and get this outside, and let's do a flow test on it next. Although, like I said, it's not going to be ideal because I'm going to have to put at least a smaller inlet on it. But let's go do that next and see how we stand. I figured while I'm adding water to the water tank here, and this is the water tank that I use for that I've been using for cooling the engine rather than the absorber. And I'm just putting a few gallons in it. And so what it is what I call them is an IBC tote, and there's like a cam lock connection there to a cam lock to a garden hose adapter, and that just goes in through the wall there. Got some pass-throughs that I put in there. Kind of need to paint that, make that look a little bit better, but these are the fuel hoses, and that's that was the garden hose that goes to the absorber, and that's the one that goes there, obviously. So yeah, that's basically that. Okay, so here's the connector that came with the this hose that I got, and you just kind of get it started on there and you tighten it down like that. And I'm not exactly sure what that thread is there, but this is just a 1-inch NPT fitting here, and it seems like, I don't know, I mean, it seems like it goes in there all right. Although I kind of think that, you know, NPT is usually NPT is a tapered type of fitting, and that kind of looks like a straight type of fitting. But I checked I looked at the pitch on it, and it does seem like it's about the same. So, and then that goes in there, and it goes up against that gasket in there, so it should be okay. But what I think I am going to do, so I'm going to put this in the lathe real quick. And turn this down here, just face this off so it isn't so sharp there, and so that when it's up against that gasket, it's not cutting it, and maybe it'll seal a little bit better and maybe make it last a little bit longer. So let me go do that. That's just facing it off on the lathe a little bit. That might help it a little bit. Well, let's go install it on the pump. Okay, so here's the pump with the couple of the fittings I put in. And that's just the 3/4 inch garden hose fitting. And there's the 1-inch NPT, and you can kind of tell by the size differences there. The differences between those, why I'm kind of disappointed to have to use the 3/4 inch for this video, but I will get that upgraded to a 1-inch, and I'll probably reflow test this at some point. But for today and for the purpose of this video, I think it's probably going to be okay. So let's get it outside, get it plumbed in, and do some test. Okay, so I've just got things set up here, just very crudely for a test, and turning out I don't have to prime it at all because I don't know if it's showing up on the camera there, but the water level is right here, and that's higher than this and this. So basically, because that water level there is higher than any of this here, water's actually flowing out of it already without even having the pump on. So something I'm going to be thinking about in the future in terms of, you know, just how this pump works. But let me go turn it on real quick and just have a quick see if it'll do anything, or if I'm going to get, hopefully I don't get soaked. So, yeah, that's coming out of there pretty good. All right. I like how it's not very loud either. That's going to be good. So, what I'm going to do next, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do next. We'll do a flow test next. Okay, so the way I'm going to flow test this, really simple. Got a 5-gallon bucket, but it's graduated up to 3.5 gallons there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the pump, get it flowing, and then simultaneously, as I put the hose into the bucket, I'm going to start my timer on my cell phone and we'll just do a quick measurement of it that way. Okay, so here's some of the flow numbers that I got, and I just ran the test twice, and the first time I got about 12 gallons per minute, and the second time I got about 11.4. And that correlates to about, this one here is about 720 gallons per hour, and this one was about 684 gallons per hour. And that's, well, that's quite a lot lower than the advertised flow rate, which was around 1150, I think. So why is it so much lower? Well, I would say the bulk of it is probably because of the fact that I'm running the 3/4 inch garden hose there instead of the 1 inch. That's probably where some of that's coming from. And the other part of it is probably just it having I'm guessing that they must have tested it in a best case scenario with like all straight pipes and whatnot. I don't know. But significantly lower. In this case here, geez, it's significantly lower than what the paperwork said it was going to flow. So a little disappointing there, but I think when I upgrade to the 1 inch inlet and the 1 inch hoses and everything, that should come up a little bit, but I don't think I'm going to make it quite to 1150. So we're done there. Kind of have an idea. Still, that's even at that, that's twice as much water flow as what I'm getting with the garden hose. So I was saying I think before I was okay up to about 250, so yeah, maybe I'm good for 500 now. Maybe. We'll see. And at any rate, that's on the higher end of anything I'd ever want to run in here anyway. So I think this will probably work out for me, even though it's a little on the lower end of what I was expecting. Alright, next let's just start plumbing this thing in and getting hooked up. Okay, so I ended up getting that plumbed in. That goes over there to the wall. Comes through the wall there, into the pump, and then I got that one there ready to go as soon as I get those fittings in the mail. And then that kind of come through here, and it'll end here, and it'll hook onto there when I get that fitting there, that 1 inch fitting for the cam lock there. And then to wrap it all up, I just put a wall switch in here so that I can turn it on as needed. So, okay, so I guess that's about all I got to do this week. Okay, so we did get the water pump tested and we measured the flow rate on it. I think those flow rates will come up a little bit with the larger 1 inch inlet. And basically, if everything works out, I think I basically doubled my horsepower capacity for this, from roughly about 250 up to maybe around 500. And I think that's going to be plenty for me. So, anyway, I guess that's all I got for this week, and we'll see you next time.